that win Friday here on the home floor? I mean, how big was that for the girls? How to get the season going like that?
Well, I think as young as this team is, it just is good for them to have those kind of positive experiences. I thought we had moments where we really played well. We really looked good. And what we have to get rid of is all the dead spots, which is very characteristic of a young team, that you often have these dead spots that occurred during the game, just, again, because they haven't had the experience of sustaining through 40 minutes. And most of the games we're going to be playing from here on out, we're going to need 40 minutes. But I was happy with some things that we did for sure. It was great to get the win, no question.
And obviously November basketball, we're just getting started like you're mentioning, but we got Army in town. So how quickly do we have to kind of get after it tomorrow?
This is probably the earliest we've ever played one of the service academies. And it'll be interesting. We're both completely different teams from a year ago. And we're both relatively inexperienced. So we're kind of on an even playing field there. Both are pretty young teams trying to figure themselves out still. But when I watch them on film and I think about how we play, I'm reminded a lot of the contrasts between the two football programs, because there's a lot of similarities there where I think we have some players who are a little more skilled and maybe some even that are a little more athletic, but they do what they do really well. And they are probably stronger, a little stockier, a little sturdier than we are, and their style of play, really suits them, and they do a great job with it. So I think it's going to, much like it is when our football teams play, I think it's going to come down to a war of wills and whether or not you can get a break here and there and that kind of thing. That's probably going to be what the game comes down to.
All right, Coach, one of the themes that we saw from you last year, you constantly said the team is really young, and they're still young, but how have you seen growth with one season under a lot of these girls' belts going into a sophomore season or a junior season where they do have a lot more reps and a lot more plays under their belt? And
well, I think the most growth is in our two juniors, Kaylin Immel and Emily Conroe. I think they've both really settled down into who they are as players and are just they're more consistent, they're more dependable, and that definitely is what happens between your sophomore and your junior year. I think our sophomores are a little better than they were as freshmen, but not that same kind of big leap. And still, half our team is freshmen, and they're good freshmen, and they're going to help us a lot. And they're a pretty even keel group. So as freshmen go, they're probably about as steady as you're gonna find. But you look at something like Camry Heath, who put in, was it 14, 16 points against Arizona State, and then was 1 for 14 against, NJIT, and that's part of being a freshman. That's what happens, and you don't get upset. They were good shots. I don't have a problem with it, but that's just kind of, what happens when you're that age. And so I really like our freshmen. I think they're awesome. They're going to help us, but you still are talking half a team's freshmen, and you're basically a freshman-sophomore team. So we're still a year, at least a year, maybe two, from really peaking.
how much fun are the Service Academy rivalries when you do get to meet?
We've been saying beat Army in our huddles for like 3 days now. So that is definitely not something that you tend to do with the other opponents. But it's always, there's just a heightened vibe for everybody. And I'm guessing that we'll probably both go out there and be a little nervous at the start just because the game it's a bigger deal. And, it's even, as you know, I think for all of us, all of our teams, it's even a bigger deal than our conference games. So yeah, we're excited, but I wish it wasn't happening quite so early, but I'm sure they probably feel the same way. Another interesting thing is we both played Arizona State in our last games and had very similar, not our last game, we played them on Tuesday, they played them on Sunday, but we had almost identical score. That's what was funny. I mean, the score for both those games was almost identical, so that tells you what kind of game it's going to be.